Dear God, which are in heaven, thank you for this blessed morning. Thank you for the opportunity to study your word in such a good conditions. Send your angels to help us, to guide us. Send your Holy Spirit to let it rain so we can receive more light from your word. Guide Jeff Pippinger, guide us that we develop more and more. I ask this by the merits of Jesus. Amen.
Theodore or anyone else that has this down pat. Let's start with Ezekiel 4:6. I want to put that line up on there before we go back to the reform lines. Ezekiel 4:6, and when thou hast accomplished them, lie on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year. Okay, that's second witness that is typically used for the year-day principle. But what we've been looking at is this prediction that's going on here. And walk me through the structure of this again, where Ezekiel is.
So Ezekiel's in 592 at midnight, the fourth day of the fifth month. Fifth day of the fourth month. Fifth day, fourth month.
Why do you say that? Because of Ezekiel 1:1?
Yes.
5 what? 5 date?
Yeah, 592.
592. Okay, so he's given a prophecy that connects him with Josiah.
Right. So he's predicting the coming siege based on the year-day principle.
Yes.
So that's where it's going to end.
This is the siege?
Yeah, which is in 597.
597. Siege. And how far off from this to this is this?
Well, that's 5 years.
Okay. What else? What about...
Now, the prophecy goes back 390 years for Israel. So it's going to go back to the dividing kingdom, but specifically to the giving of the prophecy of Josiah.
Here?
Yeah, so that's in 1 Kings 13.
Disobedient prophet.
Yeah, the disobedient prophet.
And date? Do you know?
That's 977.
All right. Tell me what I'm seeing up here.
Okay, so that goes, so what he's predicting, he lies on his side, left side for 390 days to mark that period. So he's marking that there's 390 years.
This is 390?
No, all the way to the siege.
All the way, okay.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
Yeah, so, and then he lies on his right side for 40 days, and that goes from the siege backwards, or,
This way?
620.
yeah, so that's gonna go to 627. That's the 13th year of Josiah. So Josiah began to do his reforms in his 12th year.
Wait, this is 40.
Yeah, that's 40 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And those two, that prophecy is connected between the giving of the prophecy and the fulfillment. So the prophecy is given in 977 and it's fulfilled in 627. The prophecy of Josiah.
Okay, this is...
That's 30 years, isn't it?
977 to 627 is 350 years.
Here, 627 to 597.
No, we're doing the
977 to
The
677.
other one, the 40.
627 to
597
Isn't it 30?
30.
627. 587. Oh, 587. So what? Yeah. Pardon me. Yes. Yeah, because 597 is when the captivity began, or the captivity of Josiah. So he gives it in the 5th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, right? So that's in the 5th year, and then it's 5 years later in the 10th year. Yeah, so sorry about that. So it's 587 when the siege begins. The city is destroyed in 586. Yeah. So we have the destruction of the city and the temple in 586.
Okay, what are you leaving out? That you don't have to get. That's pretty much it.
That's basically the structure. Yeah, there's some other things in Ezekiel that are important in understanding that he's referencing Josiah. For one, in Ezekiel 1:1, it says it's in the 30th year, in the 5th year of the captivity, in the 5th month, or the 4th month and the 5th day of the month. And so he's at midnight, but he's referencing 2 points. He's referencing 30 years previous, which is 622, and that's when Josiah has his Passover. So he refers to that Passover in the 18th year of Josiah. You don't put it on the line because it's not
Relevant.
It's not relevant as far as the prophecy itself, but it is a thing that shows that he's referencing that Josiah's history in the first verse. And he also, in Ezekiel 4-6, if you compare that with Leviticus 26, he's using a whole bunch of phrases from Leviticus 26. So when it says, I've given you a day for a year, he's referencing Leviticus 26 for the basis of giving a day for a year.
Okay.
Right? So the year-day principle is at least based on Leviticus 26, if not just the sabbatical cycle itself.
That'll be Leviticus 25.
Yeah, Leviticus 25.
Okay, so you got the year-day principle here, and you got the year-day principle in Numbers.
Yeah.
When they're going to walk the land each day for a year. And you also have the number 40 connected with both of those, ties them together. But the year-day principle ties it together with Millerite history. This is who and what they are.
Yeah, so to put this in with Millerite history and the predictions is extremely logical.
Okay, so what we have been arguing, and I've got to, I want to acknowledge something here. But if this is midnight, then what's the siege? Because typically the siege is midnight, isn't it? When in 66. No, is it?
Two sieges.
Pardon me?
There was a siege and they brought back, and then there was a second siege.
That's interesting.
Okay. Well, there's a number of other things that are important. So first, he's predicting this siege because there's actually 3 predictions. So first, there is the prediction of Josiah, which is fulfilled, which becomes the basis for his prediction of the coming siege. Now,
the prediction of Josiah is
right,
back here.
Right, and that's fulfilled.
Yeah.
350 years later. But he uses that as the basis for his coming prediction. Now, his prediction is the siege. If you read chapter 4, he makes the siege. He portrays Jerusalem on it, and pitches a siege against the city. Right, it writes it on the wall. Right, and it says, "Set thy face towards the siege." So he's only predicting the siege. Now, later, when the siege begins, and that's in Ezekiel, it's in 20, anyway, it's later on. Like 26. Was it 26?
26, yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, there's a time, no, it's not 26.
I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
in 24. In 24, God comes and tells him that the siege has begun. Now he's in captivity, so God has to come to him and tell him that the siege has begun that day. And it tells him on the day of the siege,
Right here?
yeah, that his wife is going to die and that he's not allowed to mourn her. And that the people are going to come to you and say, why are you not mourning your wife? And then he will tell them, because the siege has begun and Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. So he then makes a prediction about the coming of Jerusalem.
The coming of Jerusalem?
Or
The destruction of Jerusalem.
Destruction of Jerusalem that's coming. And
So there's a prediction.
so there is
here.
a prediction there, yes. And so that's extremely important. But
And there's a
also it
prediction here.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and the prediction, of course, at midnight as well. So the prediction, though, that happens in 587 when the siege begins, it's actually, in a sense, a twofold prediction. So first, he's told that Jerusalem's going to be destroyed, and he has to tell people that the desire of their eyes is going to be taken away, right? But the other thing is he's told that he is not to prophesy against Jerusalem or do any prophecies against God's people until somebody who comes from the destruction of the city, who has survived it, who has seen it with his own eyes, comes and tells him of it. And then he will be allowed to speak. He'll be allowed to mourn the loss of his wife, and he'll also be allowed to prophesy then against, God's people. So at least that's the way I understand that chapter. So that's in chapter 24 that he gives that prediction. And then that's fulfilled in, I believe it's chapter 33, verse 21, where the guy comes to him telling him that the city is destroyed. So there's this whole period, all those intervening chapters, where he's doing these prophecies against, first in chapter 25, after this prediction is given about, his wife dies and the city's going to be destroyed. It starts with Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Philistia. There's 4 kingdoms that are prophesied against in the next chapter.
And that's taking place in here.
Yeah, that the prophecies against those 4 are given. And then he does a series of prophecies against Tyre, but these are separate. So
What do you mean they're separate? By
why are they separate?
grammatical
They're
structure?
actually- yeah, it has to do with the structure of Tyre and also Egypt. So Tyre and Egypt are being used as symbols, and so he does prophecies against those 2.
Here as well.
Well, yeah, in a sense, yes, but in a sense, no, because in chapter 26, it also talks about, because there's something that happens in chapter 26.
This is way more detailed than I expected.
Yeah.
I don't mind, but this is way beyond the point I want to make with all this.
Yeah, but the point is there are 3 predictions, 3 groups of predictions. There's
Here's 3 prediction. Now you're saying there's 3 in here. 4 kingdoms, and then Tyre and Egypt, and the destruction of Jerusalem.
and the person who's going to come to him and tell him about it, and then he can then speak against Jerusalem again. So once his tongue will be loose, once this person comes and tells him of the destruction of the city.
But
So until then, he can't prophesy against Jerusalem.
okay, but in here, are you saying the prediction, the pronouncement against Tyre and Egypt is distinctly different than these 4 kingdoms?
Yes. Yeah, it's different.
Are they different from one another, or are they together? Is it Tyre and Egypt?
It goes kind of back and forth.
So it's
there's a
about
structure-
this.
Yeah, there's a structure in there which I'd have to explain it, but the structure has to do with the beginning and ending of things. So this is put in there, and then it talks about the city being destroyed in the next chapter. So those 4 kingdoms are mentioned, then the destruction of Jerusalem is mentioned. It's referenced by the first day of the 5th month. So chapter 26 begins with the first day of the 5th month. And we've done that.
And that's the destruction of Jerusalem? That's
It references that Tyre is gloating over the fact Jerusalem is destroyed. Right?
so Jerusalem got destroyed a little bit before, at least,
Yeah,
if they're
the month
gloating over it.
before. And then on the first day of the month, it says, you know, you, Tyre, said, aha, aha, right? And that's on the first day of the 5th
And
month.
on this line, where is that? Is it just after 586 or is that at 586?
It's at 586. Yeah,
Okay.
it's at the point where Jerusalem is destroyed. But instead of prophesying about Jerusalem, because he's not allowed to, he prophesies about Tyre gloating over Jerusalem's destruction. Does that make sense? Because he's not doing anything against Jerusalem at this time, but he's talking about Tyre gloating over Jerusalem's destruction.
And Tyre says, aha, aha. So you got a double there.
Yeah.
And that's the first day of the 5th month.
Yeah, that's the first day of the 5th month.
Okay.
Actually, it just has aha. It doesn't have double in there.
Okay.
But yeah, it came to pass in the 11th year, in the first day of the month, which is the 5th month, because it's gloating. And therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Tyre. So again, he's preaching against these nations. He's not preaching against Jerusalem from the time that the siege begins. So that means there is a probation that's closed because the woman has died, right? His wife has died. So there's a probation that closes at,
She dies here at the siege.
yeah, at the siege. Yeah, so there's a probation that closes there at the siege. So, see, I've taken the siege as the midnight cry, but
Really?
But we have the first day of the 5th month there and the 5th day of the 4th month, so we have a waymark between midnight and the midnight cry here.
yeah, well, in a sense.
Which we have, if we acknowledge 3 steps in that
Yeah.
history.
I think it's 3 steps. I think, though, that this is, to me, midnight and the midnight cry is in a sense, one history, right? But also what the siege and the destruction of the Jerusalem are tied together. The fact that he's not really predicting the destruction at first, he's just predicting the siege, I think is important. I think there's details in here regarding the predictions that we need to consider. Because there is more to the predictions than just, 2 predictions.
Okay, so here's what outside input about a recent presentation we did argues, is that we're saying we said Litch's prediction and Snow's prediction are in that order, right? That's what we were claiming, that it's the fulfillment of Litch's that gives impetus to Snow's, okay? And what waymark was this?
Midnight.
And this is midnight. So the argument is, in opposition to what we were saying, is that yes, Snow gives his prediction at the midnight cry, but he also gives it at Boston.
Right.
We've acknowledged that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we've said that the message of the East and the North comes together, but it's the message of the East that that gives an impetus to the later message of the North. Samuel, Snow, and Lich both give their predictions in the end of the world is one message, at midnight, but only half of it, or a partial fulfillment, happens at the midnight cry for the east wind, so to speak, that's going to hit, but then the rest of it comes later. So just to clarify, nobody has ever denied that point, that they have.
Yeah, but in my mind, I might have expressed it if I went back and looked where it was denying that point. Does Lich give a prediction here? Next waymark's is Sunday law, right? Is Islam going to have some kind of activity at the Sunday law? I mean, do they go together as a twosome all the way through?
Well, Lich, of course, starts before.
No, Lich starts right here. 3840 puts him at midnight.
Okay, I see what you're
Then
saying.
10 and then midnight cry.
Pardon me?
Then 10 days.
10 days.
And then midnight cry. And then so Lich is at the midnight cry as well.
Yeah, he's at the midnight cry as well.
He's going to give another prediction.
No, that's the fulfillment of the
Okay, but is this not midnight?
Yeah.
So is there, Lich we're saying is the message of the East. Is there another message of the East at the midnight cry that's going to be fulfilled at the Sunday law? Okay, because we're using this, and, as I was understanding it, we were using this to make a distinction between Lich's prediction, which is Josiah, and the siege, I guess we're saying, is Snows. Snows, but I mean,
Yeah, it snows, but he's using Lich in order to predict the siege. Right? Without Josiah's prophecy, he has no reference point to start the siege. Right? So the year-day principle is being verified, or the fact that the year-day principle exists gives him power to...
You're saying that without the
Without Josiah Lich's prophecy, Snow can't do his work.
right. You got to confirm the year-day principle.
Without the disobedient prophet's prophecy of Josiah, there's no reference point for his prophecy to be fulfilled. He has to have that fulfilled prophecy in order to verify his prophecy. Now the interesting thing is, we're only now understanding this prophecy, which whether they fully understood the prophecy in Ezekiel's day or not, we understand it definitely clearer now. So for us to see the fulfillment of this prophecy now is where that is empowered. There's an empowerment that's happening now that may have not happened in Ezekiel's day, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you're getting probably too philosophical.
Well, no, okay, I'll try not to be philosophical. All I'm saying is that when Abraham has that vision where that he divides the animals and God passes through
Yes.
those, that's a mirror, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's given, Ellen White says, as a sign to us. And the thing is, we can't be back there to see it. So what we have as a sign is the reform lines and the prophetic mirrors and all those things that are tied to it. Okay, that's maybe philosophical, but the point is, now we are actually looking at this prophecy and understanding it for the first time in Earth's history. And in doing that,
I see your hand, Tyler.
we're seeing the connection. We're seeing the line upon line. So we actually can understand this,
Yes.
which nobody could before because they didn't have the light we have now. So now, in us looking at it, that prediction of Josiah has way more power and significance than in the past. And so we need to understand this, obviously. And there's more to it. So even what you said, I put too much up there.
No, for my point. I wanted to make the point about there's an argument that they're both given a prediction here
Yeah.
at midnight.
But one of the things that we have is, because we do have a mirror up there as well, because we have the 5 years. We actually have another 5 years if we put 622 in there, so it's.
Why would we put six?
Where is it here? Well, 622 is the Passover, right? And there's 5 years between the 13th and the 18th year of Josiah, and there's the Passover. And then there's 30 years from 622 to 592, right? And then there's another 5 years again, so it's 5, 30, and 5. And the structure in Joseph, it uses this prophetic mirror structure as well. And since he references
The structure in Joseph.
yeah, in the story of Joseph, there's prophetic mirrors in Joseph, which we
Okay,
haven't really looked at. You haven't.
Yeah,
looked
but
at.
you're getting way beyond my ability to follow
I'm just saying,
all
in
the.
Joseph, there's 3 predictions. There's Joseph's dreams, there's the butler and the baker's dreams, and there's Pharaoh's dreams. And so what I'm saying is that we're often looking at the 2 predictions, but there's really 3 predictions in the previous histories. So there has to be a 3rd prediction.
Miller's.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Miller's prediction then is up. So we can't negate that when we're analyzing these other predictions. We can't negate Miller's prediction, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's way beyond the level
Okay.
that I'm So, but one of the things, this would argue, this 5 years and this 5 years, this would argue that this is 9/11,
Yeah,
627.
right.
And this would be illustrating one of the things that we often run into is that the characteristics of 9/11 are also the characteristics of midnight, because you got 5-year period at 9/11, 5-year period at midnight.
Yes, yes.
So there's things,
So you need to put,
pardon me,
What is the first 5 years?
well, here, if this is 9/11, it's followed by 5
What is it? Literally?
to Josiah's Passover in 622.
from the 13th year of Josiah to the 18th year of Josiah. So he begins his reforms in the 12th year. The 13th year, he burns the bones, fulfills the prophecy. In the 18th year, he has the Passover. He finds the book of the law, he has the Passover. That's in the 18th year. And it's referenced in Ezekiel 1:1. It says, in the 30th year, in the 5th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, the 30th year goes back to the Passover of Josiah. So
Right
it's
here.
referencing Josiah's history right in verse 1 of Ezekiel.
Okay, Brother Tyler.
What I was going to say is I don't think the structure of Snow allows us to put them together, because Snow, you have to remember that Snow gives 2 predictions. He gives midnight and the midnight cry, so there has to be some sort of separation, because we've identified, if you put, I know if I say it, just say it, you're not going to follow me, but if we put,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's just, yeah. If we put midnight and we start Lich and Snow, which they both do start at midnight, but you have to acknowledge that 10 days later, Lich's prediction is fulfilled, but 10 days later for Snow is not what Snow is predicting. It's the midnight cry. Snow is not predicting the midnight cry, ever. You know, in the context of what Snow is predicting, his midnight cry Sunday law, in his history, he's not talking about
What's he
the midnight cry.
predicting?
He's predicting the Sunday law,
He's predicting the appointed time.
the appointed time.
Midnight cry is the appointed time.
Do we just cut?
I don't know, but it
Just get rid
is.
of midnight cry then?
But you know that, right?
I get that, but the structure's not showing what you're saying.
Is there a Sunday law here?
It's a fractal though. You can't.
We get to pick and choose when we apply the fractals.
No, I'm saying we have to apply correctly. If the context doesn't allow us to apply the fractal, then you can't apply the fractal to this specific topic. Because, like I said, the structure of if you apply the fractal like you're saying and say midnight cry is the appointed time, that's what Snow is talking about. Where's the midnight cry in Snow's history? You have to have midnight cry, and the Sunday law. You need 3 waymarks there. But if you're doing this, you have to cut out the midnight cry. And just say he skips the midnight cry and goes straight to the Sunday law.
Which is the loud cry.
Again, it's only a fractal. Though. He's not predicting the fractal.
Brother,
Okay, now, is there importance in the fact that Snow acknowledges that they're at midnight when he's in Boston? Does his acknowledgement of midnight have any significance?
he acknowledged that when he was in Boston.
Well, yeah, because he
That's
says,
what
where
he's
are we?
saying.
Right? You know, how many months in a year? There's 12 months, and so forth, right? And so he says, we're at midnight. That's what we understand, is that was in Boston where he said.
So what would that mean? You brought it up. What's it mean? You
Well,
must have an
as far
idea.
as, in a sense, he is predicting the midnight cry, because he's now saying that we're at midnight and we have this message to give. And when he gives it in Exeter, he is, in a sense, predicted that, right? Because he doesn't give the midnight cry at midnight. He gives the message, but it's not empowered until he goes to Exeter. So in a sense, he is predicting the midnight cry. And at least that's a suggestion.
He didn't know that.
No, he didn't know it.
He didn't know that it was all going to take off at Exeter.
No, he doesn't have to know that, though. All he has to do is acknowledge that it's midnight and that the midnight cry is going to be given. When it's going to be given, he thinks he's giving it then, but it's going to be given in Exeter. That's when the midnight cry is given.
There was another hand.
And there is the parallel between Lich as Arya.
Is there any connection between Exeter and Exodus?
Not that I know of. But because it got EX in it. I hope there's some light if we get to that level to where we start taking a couple letters out of a word. It's a symbol. It's bad enough that we're seeing verses and chapters. But okay, so I just wondered if maybe everyone else understood this, but I think that when I was dealing with it the other day, I wasn't acknowledging that they're both there. And what you're saying is, tell me what you're saying again one more time, Tyler, that this here isn't fulfilled here. It's got to be fulfilled down here.
What I was saying is, you see, in the context of Samuel Snow, you see three waymarks. You see midnight, midnight cry, and the Sunday law. His actual prediction that he's making is talking about the Sunday law in these three waymarks. So what I'm suggesting is that, yes, I think it's valid that at midnight, Lich and Snow are both there, but I'm not necessarily, I don't know, maybe not Lich at the midnight cry. I don't know. I'm just saying that I don't think you can skip that middle waymark in the context of Snow giving his prediction, because you're kind of just cherry picking which waymarks you want to pick, because you need the whole structure, I think. Maybe that's wrong.
Okay, so this one is iffy at this point. Tell us about, are you arguing for 2 sieges? Yeah, up here. Yeah, up.
What did you say?
I don't know. That this is the siege, this is the destruction, and you said there's actually 2 sieges.
Well, there's 2 sieges in the sense that you have Cestius and Titus. They're both in some way. We say Cestius is a siege and Titus is a destruction, but there's no destruction at Titus. He has to siege it first. So, I mean, you can say there's a siege and a siege.
No,
that's the only point. That's the only thing I said.
But it could be viewed as that 1260 days is the entire siege, and this is what went on. They surrounded it, they backed off, surrounded it, but it was the same military campaign.
Okay.
But I'm not arguing against you. I'm just saying that could be viewed that way.
I want to clarify that I'm not arguing that there's not a prediction of Islam at the midnight cry for the Sunday law. All I'm saying is I don't think you see it in the structure of Lich and Snow, in that context, in that, in that defined space. But maybe you do in other lines. That's all, So I'm not saying there's not Islam present at the Sunday law. I'm just saying you're not seeing it from those two, maybe.
Okay, if Theodore has dissected this correctly, there's 3 predictions up here. The little P's with the underline. Is there justification for saying that this first prediction is Lich's prediction? The one justification that would be the name, if you're willing to go that way, Josiah, both cases. But what this prediction is for the arrival of Josiah here in history, right? Is that the arrival of his?
Yeah.
Is that August 11th, 1840?
That would have to.
It wouldn't have to be with Josiah Lich. It could be August 1st, and this at the Passover could be. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying there's some variables in that history.
Yeah.
So, what is this? Is a prediction for a revival, I guess would be the way to put it.
It predicts a revival.
Okay, and there is an empowerment on August 11th, 1840. Revival, okay. Where is Snow's prediction? Here?
Yeah.
And that's a prediction of?
The coming siege.
And if you took the whole siege time period as one waymark from here to here, then you've got the closed door of snow.
Right, so you know, and that's one of the things is, you know, we sometimes are dividing things that, even though in that line, they're points in history, they still can be one. In a sense, the siege, you know, it's...
Yeah, you can say the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, and it can be understood that this is the history of 66 to 70,
Right.
but you can label it AD 70.
Yeah, but he just specifically predicts the siege. And I think that's important because when his wife dies on the day the siege begins, there has to be significance in that. I mean, you know, his wife doesn't just die for no reason.
Well, this could be the Sunday law,
Right,
where the church is completely and fully passed by,
yeah,
and this could be the close of probation,
that's true. It could be.
destruction of Jerusalem.
Okay, in Ezekiel 24, the very beginning of the chapter, before it gets to the death of Ezekiel's wife, it talks about that this happened in the 9th year, in the 10th month, and the 10th day of the month. And it also says that in that same day, the king of Babylon set himself against Jerusalem the same day.
Yeah, that's the siege.
So, which 587?
That's what I just said. This could be the Sunday law.
So that would be 1010, 587.
The 10th day of the 10th month.
Yeah, you have a doubling there, 1010.
So, point being,
I was just wondering, I wasn't sure that's what it was. I wasn't understanding that was a siege.
so if this is the Sunday law, this prediction is the loud cry in the how we're theorizing this out. Yes, Brother Butt.
Well, that brought a question in my mind because it's chapter 24 is talking about the 9th year, the 10th month, the 10th day, and then somehow I remember Theodore said that chapter 26, when it says, came to pass in the 11th year and the first day of the month. So why is that the first of the 5th month?
Because he's talking to Tyre, and Tyre is exalting that Jerusalem has just been destroyed, and that was in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month.
All right.
So now it's
Sorry.
the next month, the fifth month. So that's why he doesn't say it's the 5th, because
Right.
anybody in that context will know it's that next month. And then we could show a whole bunch of other things from that.
Yeah, that's a nice little observation that he dug out,
Yeah.
that he shared some time ago. Brother William?
I might have misunderstood. Was the Sunday law at the siege? Or?
No. I'm not being dogmatic about anything. I'm trying to line these up briefly before we move back into our reform lines.
First day of the 5th month, the rest of the chat, which is 586.
First day of the 5th month at 586. And did you understand the logic that Bud and Theodore just expressed? This is a nice observation.
Could we go through it again?
Theodore, go to chapter 24 and explain that very briefly.
Okay.
Ezekiel 24.
Yeah, so in Ezekiel 24, because this is actually 18 months after the siege, that Jerusalem is destroyed on the 9th day of the 4th month, right? But Ezekiel has not been given any messages, at this point, okay, let me explain it. So again, in the 9th year, the 10th month, so we gotta go to chapter 26.
Yeah.
So in chapter 24, he's dealing with the siege, and this is an important point because he's told that his wife is going to die, he's not going to mourn her, and he's not going to speak against Jerusalem. Chapter 25, during that period, he's now not going to the church. Probation is closed for Seventh-day Adventists. That's the Sunday law, right? So we would have to say that that's the Sunday law. The siege is the Sunday law because he's not.
No, you wouldn't have to,
Okay.
because in here you can have the awakening of the Gentiles where the two sticks are being joined, if you wanted to
That
call
is-
this the midnight
that is
cry.
true, because he is speaking against he goes Ammon, the
Ammon,
Ammonites, the
Moab,
Moabites,
and
the
Seir,
Edomites, and the
Philistine.
Philistia, right? So that's in chapter 25. Then in chapter 26, it says, it came to pass in the 11th year, in the first day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying. So he's not allowed to speak against Jerusalem. Now he's speaking against Tyre at this point. And Tyre is gloating. It says, Son of man, because that Tyrus has said against Jerusalem, aha, she is broken. that was the gates of the people. She is turned unto me, I shall be replenished. Now she is laid waste. So Tyre is exalting. Jerusalem's destroyed. Tyre's going to profit because Jerusalem was taking a lot of the money, being that. So Tyre thinks that it's going to be able to profit from this. And so it's exalting here at the point where Jerusalem has just been destroyed. So when it says...
And Jerusalem was destroyed on the 9th day, the 4th month.
Yeah.
Of what year?
Of the 11th year. So this is in the 11th year, on the first day of the month, that
But
the
you
word of
just-
the Lord came unto me,
But you
saying...
just said the 10th day, the 10th month, and 9th year. That's when the siege began.
That's when the siege begins. That's chapter 24.
18
We're in
months later.
26. So in 26, it came to pass in the 11th year, on the first day of the month. It doesn't say which month, but it's referencing that event that happened just in that month, right? The month before. So it's the 5th month.
This is the 10th year, you're saying?
No, that's the 11th year.
11th year.
But then when it says it's in the 11th year on the first day of the month, it's referring to the 5th month, because Jerusalem has just been destroyed.
This is the 4th month.
So where's the
Right.
5th month? Which chapter we're talking about?
26.
26 1.
So Jerusalem has just been destroyed. Tyre is exalting.
So there's no other reference about the year. It's simply he's following a logic about his
Well, it
months.
says it's the 11th year.
No.
So it is that same year that Jerusalem is destroyed. And it's just after it's been destroyed in the first day of the month.
Okay.
So it has to be the next month. It can't be the same month.
Because of verse 2 it says.
And you wouldn't have it as another month because then nobody would know what.
That's what I mean. There's the context is this month. It's got to stay
If
locked
we
into
do
that.
too, we'll say on the first,
Structure into
if
it.
we're in, June is just something's happened in June and we say, on the first day of the month, we're this happened afterwards, we're gonna know it's the next month.
But there's
And-
3 years.
Yeah.
There's 3 years difference.
No, that's the 11th year. The siege began in the 9th year. 18 months later, Jerusalem is destroyed in the 11th year.
18
So
months later.
the siege begins at 9 and it's destroyed at 11.
11, yeah.
Interesting.
So how could you find 18 months between that? I'm confused because you've got 3 years according. I mean, maybe there might not be 3 full years, but there's 3 years and 18 months. That doesn't even give you 2 years.
With what months?
It starts in the 10th day of the 10th month of the 9th year
Yes.
of Zedekiah, and it ends in the 4th month of the 11th year of Zedekiah. It's a year and a half. It's 18 months and a certain number of days. Depends how you count it, whether in our calendar or the Jewish calendar. And you find that in Jeremiah and 2 Kings. They go through and show the chronology.
Okay, so
Ezekiel does.
now it's getting kind of complex up here.
Could you just in a nutshell say chapter 24, 25, please?
So 24 is the beginning of the siege. At the beginning of the siege, his wife dies, and he cannot mourn her, and he cannot prophesy against Judah. And then he prophesies in chapter 25 against Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Philistia. So that's 24. 25 is in between. And then 26, he deals with the first day of the 5th month, and that is a prophecy
Is that right?
against Tyre, yes. And that's a prophecy against Tyre because Tyre is exalting because Jerusalem has just been destroyed.
Past tense.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone got that?
Yes.
When does the person come then afterwards?
How far? That's actually a year and a half later. So there's 18 months from Ezekiel 24 to Ezekiel 26. And then there's 18 months until the person comes and tells him that Jerusalem has been destroyed. But all that is there's, 18 months and 18 months.
There's 18 months in here.
Yeah,
And then there's 18 months before the guy shows up.
yeah. When he can then prophesy against Jerusalem. And when he can prophesy against Jerusalem,
And what's 18 months?
well, it's a year and a half, but
540? 540, okay. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
yeah. So the significance of that, I don't know specifically, except that, he's now allowed to mourn. So,
Yeah, you have a mirror.
you have a mirror, and he's allowed to mourn. And you know, one of the things that ends up happening is he does a whole bunch of prophecy.
This at one level, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but this at one level would be the image of the beast test in the United States, and this would be the image of the beast test in the world, and you got 18 and 18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think so.
I think so.
That's my thinking of that.
I interrupted you. You didn't
Yeah.
finish your thought.
Oh, well, I was basically going to say that. So,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But can you tell me again where you get the fourth month again, please?
uh,
I'm not catching that.
that's in Jeremiah and 2 Kings when it talks about the destruction of Jerusalem in the 11th year of Zedekiah in the 4th month, the 9th day of the month. That's when Jerusalem is destroyed.
Jeremiah in 2 Kings.
That's when the destruction.
All right. This is getting beyond. It's way beyond the point I wanted to make. You had your hand up. Ariane, you have your hand up.
No.
Okay, so I just wanted to put in the record for the people as we were discussing the symbolism of snow and lich, that I've either restated it or stated it kind of incorrectly or not, and I wanted to make sure that we're acknowledging that they're both here. Whether or not Brother Tyler's contention is valid, we still don't know. So, any thoughts on that before we close it down?
Well,
There was one in my head, but for me, but
where
oh yeah.
do we mark midnight cry, Sunday law, 9/11? Are we firm on any of those things, or those are up in the air? I mean, we know midnight where midnight is, and we should know where the first day of the 5th month is. But
Yeah, this would be midnight at one level, and this would be the midnight cry.
right, at another level, right? But as far as
But the siege, when we're dealing with a prophetic siege, you got 66.
well, the siege starts and ends, right? So I mean, the siege starts in 66
That's
and
what-
ends in 70.
So, what is that? That's the Sunday law, isn't it?
Right.
So what's this?
Well, it's the midnight cry.
Okay, so this is the midnight cry,
Yeah.
and this is the midnight cry.
Right.
Or this is the midnight cry, and this is the loud cry.
That's what I was going to say.
It's interesting that you have the 25 between this one, and that you have 25 between midnight and midnight cry, but that's not my point. 18 months.
But that's not your point. What are you talking about? It's interesting what?
Chapters.
The chapters. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe Exeter and Exodus is somehow connected, right?
Exeter refers to water.
Exodus, they had to go through the water, my brother.
Yeah, but it is, technically it means to leave.
But I don't know if we can say that 18 months plus 18 months is 3 years.
You don't know if we can say that?
Yeah, I mean like as a period between two way marks instead of put one way mark and another way mark, because it's 3 years they together.
It's 36 months.
Because you have 3 years. in
From
the
here
background.
to here is 3 years.
Yeah.
And what is your problem with that?
No, it's not a problem. I'm just saying that this can be a one way mark. Because it's 3 years. Like one way mark in the beginning, one in the end. This is my point?
No, try one more time. I'm almost there. You're saying that 3 years is like one way mark.
Yeah, no, 3 years is a symbol of a buying off or the 3 second dancing. I don't know if you can use this.
Okay. I don't know. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up.
I don't know.
3 days, 3 years. Okay, so that we're not going to acknowledge the 25 though. There was a couple other hands.
I had a question, or another question, just I had to think of. Ezekiel 33, there's a man telling Ezekiel that Jerusalem is destroyed.
Right.
I had to think of just to bring in another line, so or at least it's thought. I had to think of Nehemiah, who was told when he was in Babylon that someone came to him and he told him like the situation in Jerusalem, and so. I don't know where that is in.
So he's got to come back now and do his work.
Yeah.
Okay, Stephen?
Well, I was just thinking the Passover in 622, lining up 9/11, and then you have 30 years there. I was just thinking maybe like Christ's baptism, lining up with that there, because Passover is like death and resurrection happens there, so that's symbolized in the Passover. And then at midnight, Christ goes into the wilderness. There's a 3-step.
Wait a second. You're saying 627 is 9/11, perhaps, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, with Passover and then with maybe Christ's baptism then. And then, because it mentions like 30 years, so Christ was 30.
And the priests are 30 years old. So you're saying these are all characteristics of 9/11.
Yeah.
Okay, and carry on.
And then midnight is when Christ began the 3 steps in the wilderness. And so he goes in the wilderness for 3 days, or for 40 days. And there's the 40-year prophecy mentioned there as well. I don't know how to move it through.
Yeah. There's some provocative inferences. Brother Tyler?
Like Ariane was saying, I think there's some fractals in here. I don't think it's wrong to lay it out as a chronological line, and there's a lot of truth in that, but I think in the application to our line there are several fractals in here. And one that I'm thinking about is, is Josiah, what year is over Josiah at the very first number?
350. Here?
No.
Or 977?
977, okay. I think 977 is midnight, and then 677 is the midnight cry, and then
627?
627, sorry, I can't see it from here. And then the siege is the Sunday law. I think that might be one of the fractals in there, or something, I don't know, because those 3 waymarks exactly parallel lich and snow at one level, and yeah. So I think that might be a fractal.
Hope you had that if you needed it. Okay, we'll try this for Brother Tyler. 977, you're saying is?
Midnight?
This
Yes.
is midnight. And then
627, 677, whatever that is.
27.
627, that's midnight cry. And then the siege is 587, Sunday law.
so why?
Well, one, that shows, those 3 waymarks show the same structure as lich and snow. You see a prediction given at midnight, fulfilled at the midnight cry. That's
This is snow.
Yeah, snow and lich, I guess, but
Snow's prediction.
no lich. Liches would be that one, or
Wait.
depending how you're gonna say it.
You said it.
No, I said lich.
No, you didn't. Go back.
Then lich gets predicted right there, the first one, and then it gets fulfilled as the midnight cry. And this is the prediction about Josiah, and that gives an impetus to what Ezekiel is saying about on the 4th day, or the 5th day of the 4th month, which was back at midnight cry, and or at midnight, sorry. And now he's sorry, let me figure out how to say this. And then you have the second one being fulfilled at the Sunday law, because snow was actually predicting the Sunday law. Right
So
there.
where does he do his predictions? No.
Midnight.
Does that square with you?
It's not chronological and it's not historical, but I'm saying I think by the symbols it might be showing that. I don't know though. I'm throwing that into the mix.
So, what is this 3 years? This 1818?
Just one question. Now, there's two options, and actually, I originally had a year and a half there from when the guy comes, but it's actually 6 months. And I just looked at my notes.
So you just turned everything upside down?
Well, it doesn't turn everything upside down. It just says that when the guy comes to him, it's actually in the year of the captivity, which is fall to fall. So that puts it 6 months. When you look at it on the surface, it looks like 3 years. When you parse out Ezekiel's chronology, because it says in the year of the captivity, it moves it 1 year earlier.
Okay, well, so the 18 months and the 18 months is incorrect.
Right.
So, tell me what you're suggesting the 18 months and the 18 months is. 6 months here?
It's 18 months there. That's still 18 months.
Okay.
Because that's spring to spring calendar.
18 months.
And then the next one's the fall to fall, so it moves it 1 year earlier, so it's 6 months. So, sorry about that. But that's hard to explain at this point. Why? But when you look at it on the surface, it starts in the 9th year. The siege starts in the 9th year, the 10th month, the 10th day of the month. But that's referencing the reign of Zedekiah. And then when the siege ends, he's told in chapter 33, verse 21, that in the 12th year of our captivity in the 10th month. So if you looked at it on the surface, you would just think it's 3 years from when the siege begins to when it ends. But it's actually 6 months later that somebody comes to him, which actually makes a lot more sense than somebody coming a year and a half later and telling him that the city is destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that he has two different references. When he talks about the year of the captivity, he's talking about Jehoiachin's reign fall to fall. But when he talks about just the normal years, he's talking Zedekiah's reign spring to spring. And that moves months that are 7 to 12. It moves them 1 year earlier when you go fall to fall than the spring.
So if Tyler's observation were valid,
Yeah.
then here at 587, right here, you've got these messages going to the world.
Right, which is true. And then at some point somebody comes and tells him that Jerusalem has been destroyed. That would be a close of probation.
Yeah, okay. I have this
Well, yeah,
this doesn't square right with me. There's something about it that's a
Can I
little
read
bit
the verses,
whack.
though? Ezekiel 33, and it says, "It came to pass in the 12th year of our captivity, in the 10th month, in the 5th day of the month, that one that had escaped out of Jerusalem came unto me, saying, The city is smitten. Now the hand of the Lord was upon me in the evening before," so he says the evening before, "that he was escaped." So actually the evening before, God told him, "And had opened my mouth until he came to me in the morning, and my mouth was opened, and I was no more dumb."
So
he actually is able to speak there. He's dumb for a while, and he's able to speak.
right here.
Yeah, right there. So this, yeah.
Okay,
And
so
whether that relates to Zedekiah's dumbness in his speaking,
whether
or Zachariah's, whether or not.
the ass speaking, the United States speaking, line upon line.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tyler is opposing that first there. Why he proposed? I don't know why he proposed this one. But for me, it's really hard to remove midnight from the 5th day of the 4th month.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
That's
just saying
what
that is. I'm pulling that back.
he's doing a repeat and enlarge.
Yeah, because in my mind, and I might be wrong, but this doesn't seem to follow any sort of structure we've laid out before. You know, it's Josiah's Passover between 9/11 and midnight. You know, that's obvious. It's an obvious fractal. You know, things like that. In my mind, I think there's a broader truth chronologically, but on our line, Josiah's Passover is either midnight or the midnight cry, or the midnight cry or the Sunday law. Sorry, it's an empowerment moment. But so I'm just saying, I think there's fractals in there, and like you said before, we have that 5 years after. Never mind that. I was misremembering that. But I don't know. I think there's some obvious fractals in here, to me at least, in that we need to apply those fractals
But
to see what it actually applies to our line.
Do you think the big line is that one?
This one?
Big line in terms of what though? Big line for our line? I think that's the chronological play of events, but I don't know if it necessarily is showing us 1989, 9/11, that, I don't know.
Which one? I mean, you said there's a fractal somewhere.
I think there's several fractals.
Several fractals.
Repeated enlarges.
Yeah, repeating enlarges.
I can see that, but for me, the big line has to have the 5th day of the 4th month as midnight.
Sure. Yeah, then maybe that's the big line, but I'm just talking about for midnight cry, Sunday law, end of the world application kind of thing. You can keep Ezekiel there, but I don't know.
But am I understanding right that the reason you're constructing it this way is you're trying to retain what we're understanding about lich and snow?
I'm saying that's the only way it makes sense.
Unless what we understand
Unless
about
we say
lich and
completely-
snow is not correct.
Yep, unless it's completely wrong.
Not completely wrong, just maybe a little bit wrong. Or completely wrong. Or anything
But
in between.
You just don't see lich and snow the way you don't see that on that big line there.
Brother Daniel.
Just one question. Sometimes you make counts inclusive and sometimes exclusive. So, how you know how we should count? Like if you count from 27 to 26, it's 6 years if you count inclusive. So, what is the rule that you use for? You say, oh, it's 5 or it's 6 or I'm gonna count inclusive.
You understand his point, Brother Theodore? He's throwing this your way. Why are you saying 5 from 627 to 622? Why are you using exclusive instead of inclusive? For if it's inclusive, it would be 6 years here instead of 5.
Why would you ever use inclusive?
Don't ask me a question. Answer his question. I'm just repeating his question for you to respond to.
Why would you ever use inclusive? I don't understand.
I don't
why.
know. It's because we just made a study ago, and then we use inclusive for sure that we have 3 years, and now we're using exclusive. So, which one we should use?
Well, because the Bible's not using inclusive here. Only if it's using inclusive reckoning would you use inclusive reckoning. And it's very rare to do that.
You're saying the Bible never uses inclusive reckoning?
No, I'm saying it does, but it's very rare. It usually only does it in dealing with threes, like today, tomorrow, and the next day. It'll use inclusive reckoning, and there's the odd time it will talk about the 8th day when in 8 days or after 8 days when it means a week. But those are rare situations. Inclusive reckoning is very specific language, and it always is very clear. So we don't use inclusive reckoning. The Bible rarely uses it.
But we use it for
So you use it as a rule, it's exclusive unless the Bible will tell you then we'll use inclusive.
I have seen one place that the Bible uses inclusive, and it's Matthew chapter 1.
Yeah, it uses
Yeah,
it, but it'll tell
it
you.
uses inclusive.
No, he's not saying it never uses it.
I'm
He
just
says,
saying, when it does, it's the language of inclusive reckoning, and it's always obvious.
Yeah, it tells you that it's inclusive.
It's like when you got on the third day is not inclusive reckoning. So one is people misunderstand it. We naturally say the third day. But if you said after 3 days and you meant the third day, that would be inclusive reckoning. So I'm not sure if you have to use a specific. Do you mean inclusive reckoning, or just do you mean like the 5th day? I mean, it's obviously, if you were counting from 627 to 622, that's the 6th year, but it's 5 years later. But 6th year is not inclusive reckoning.
Okay.
That's just natural language to describe that you're counting the first year as the first one.
A good way
But
to
the point is, it's 5 years.
a good way to understand it is you're born and then you turn 1, but when you turn 1 you're in your 2nd year, even because you've lived a year. You're actually in your 1st year from the day you were born until the end of that 1st year. But we say you're 1 year old. Well, yeah, we're recognizing the fact that a year has passed. The fact that you're 1 year old is exclusive reckoning. If you wanted to account the 1st year, then that's
No, that's not correct. But anyway, No,
Well-
you would actually count both the first year and the year. Inclusive reckoning would
That's what I'm
include,
saying.
you would be one more year older.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
You were 0 until you turn 1. So in the first.
Okay,
that's a
so let's
0
forget
year.
about inclusive, exclusive. All we're saying is it's 5 years, from 622 to 627 is 5 years. That's how you count it. We always count numbers that way.
When Ellen White died, she was 87, but it was her 88th year of life.
That's nothing to do with inclusive and exclusive reckoning.
Well, I think it is. It's the same principle.
I have a question.
Sister Tanya, and then Brother Jorlin.
I have a question about the chronology.
exactly-
The
Well, wait a second, wait a second.
587 siege, right? Is that where Star Wars start counting the 70 years of captivity? Does that
No.
have?
The
So-
70 years captivity starts when Daniel's taken captive. This is the fourth 7 times in Ezekiel 4. He's referencing Leviticus 26, talking about what's going to happen from Leviticus 26, and that's the fourth 7 times. That's the destruction of the city. That's where all the first 3 are repeated. The scattering, the captivity, the destruction of the city, the end of the kingship. All those things are described in Ezekiel 4.
So the siege in 587 has nothing to do with taking captivity away. Anything is just sieging the city. Is that what you're saying?
This is the siege of Zedekiah.
This is the siege of Zedekiah. So it's the fourth 7 times. It's not the beginning of the captivity, because the captivity starts when Daniel's taken captive.
Yeah,
It's a
that's-
progressive. There's 3 steps. Daniel's taken captive, Jehoiachin's taken captive, and Zedekiah's taken captive. Those 3 steps are the 3 steps that happen at the beginning of the
So this
70
is the
years.
third step. This is the last step.
Yep.
This is the last step in the captivity, yes.
Okay.
But the captivity has already started 21 years before.
Right. It starts at 608, right? Or 606?
Well, it would start in the
606.
fall of 607, in the Jewish year 606.
So we know. Okay. So that's what I'm struggling with the month that you put there, the April month, because in Jeremiah 1:3 says that it was taken in the 5th month. So
April month?
do you have the 4th month, 9th day?
The 4th month it's in the summer. It's August.
But the 4th month isn't April.
No,
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 their
no,
years
no.
are different.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have said 4th month, not April. I'm just saying that in Jeremiah, when he was taken captive, it says in the 5th month. But this is the days of Jehoiakim. So I'm just trying to figure out how you came up with that month. I'm still trying to figure out the month.
it just tells us that on the 9th day of the 4th month, Jerusalem is destroyed. Right?
That's the final destruction.
Yes.
We're looking at
Okay.
what it says in
Well, there's actually, the final destruction happens in the 5th month when the temple is destroyed, is in the 5th month. But when Jerusalem is taken, the walls are broken down, right? Because that's what it says, the city is broken, right? That happens on the 9th day of the 4th month. And then Nebuzaradan comes in, and then in the 5th month, I can't remember which day it is, he actually destroys the temple, right? So there's, even when the city is broken into, it's just that all doesn't happen on one day. There's progression. And then Gedaliah is killed in the 7th month, because Gedaliah is set up as governor by Nebuchadnezzar, but they don't want to stay in submission to Nebuchadnezzar, like Jeremiah told them to, and so they kill Gedaliah. And that's why there's a fast in the 5th month and the 7th month, because the city itself is destroyed the temple itself is destroyed in the 5th month. But yeah, there's a lot of detail there, for people to think about.
And Gedaliah is killed in the 7th month, so when they're fasting in the 5th and 7th month, it's the destruction of the temple and the death of Gedaliah that they're commemorating?
Yes. Yeah. There's a fast of the 10th month, there's a fast of the 4th month, there's a fast of the 5th. They acknowledge all these things, but Zechariah, the prophet Zechariah, refers specifically to the fast of the 5th month because he's dealing with the temple. And then also the fast of the 7th month, that they've been fasting for 70 years. And that's that's at the end of the 70 years for the temple itself. But yeah, there's a lot of detail there for people to try to see.
You satisfied, Sister Tanya?
Yeah, I thought I was still thinking people taking captivity. I didn't know that we were actually talking about the destruction, so that was my fault.
Any other input?
I think what it would be
Oh,
nice
yeah.
if you could see all the three lines, like the captivity of the different kings.
Yeah, but this was going to be, for me, a 15-minute thing that has taken the whole class, and we never even finalized where we went to, and to go to now 2 additional lines on top of that in 10 minutes doesn't seem reasonable. What's your comment?
A question. This peak is after the 6 months or in 586?
This
That's after 6
10
months.
it's at
When he speaks when this person comes back from Jerusalem and tells him that Jerusalem is destroyed. So it's after the 6 months. It's Ezekiel 33.
Yeah.
Verse
Yeah.
So 6
22.
months later, then he can speak.
22.
So you cannot put this peak in the year that you put there in 587. You put there in
Right.
the left side.
Yeah, this way.
that way.
There we have to erase because you put 587.
Yeah.
But this.
So what's that do for you, Brother Tyler?
587 is the Sunday law. When's it actually destroyed? What year? 5 what? 586. 586. That's the close of probation. I think the speaking's a fractal. There's obviously not. I don't think there's any speaking at the close of probation. And that's 6 months later anyway.
Yeah.
So that's
Only the
3.
same, yeah.
That's another way mark away.
God speaks.
Is that 585 he would speak?
That's not the structure. 587 is the siege.
Siege.
Then there's a year later,
Yeah,
or
it's a
18
year
months
and a
later,
half. Actually, it's 2 years
for the
later
actual
to the
destruction.
That's 585.
18 months later, where you have the speaking erase speak,
speaking. No, the
and put
speaking
the
is
or
after
do that works too. And that's the destruction right there. And then there's 6 months and then the speaking. But I'm suggesting the speaking's a fractal, because I don't see any messages being given to the world or anything at the close of probation. I think it's all done.
God speaks to his people.
There is speaking, but not necessary. Yeah, there is. There even you know that
Yeah,
there is speaking. What's the death decree?
The law is speaking, but
It's a speaking.
This is Ezekiel speaking.
it's the close of probation. The close of probation has the speaking.
The universal Sunday law is the
It's 6
speaking.
months later, so it couldn't even be the close of probation, because you have to have the 6 months in between, which brings you to the time of Jacob's trouble, the second coming.
This could be the universal Sunday law.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I think that's the close of probation. What your fingers at?
Yeah.
The
And
actual destruction. But then what's 6 months later?
the Sunday law. That's the
God
death
speaking
decree,
is
the time
covenant.
of Jacob's trouble. Because now you can speak against. Anyway, I don't know.
Sister Michelle.
I was wondering if it might line up with Luke 1, the extension of Luke 1 with Jesus 6 months later.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, but that makes this
You bring it whole
the Sunday law.
back.
Yeah, but it's the universal something else. Didn't we just say that?
Yeah.
And Zechariah speaks.
I still think it's.
But this isn't. This from here to here is 18. But anyway,
It's 3
I-
times 6, the image of the beast.
3 times 6, 6, 6, huh?
That's what I'm saying.
The image of the beast.
Oh, I'm sorry. From the camera, it looks like you're pointing that way. What was I gonna say? I think it's important to know, and I don't think it's anyone saying otherwise, but the Sunday law is a progressive destruction. It's not destroyed.
Yeah.
Maybe it is destroyed at the Sunday law, but it's progressive in nature in the sense that I would understand that a siege begins and then it's destroyed thereafter through a period of time. You know, like the Sunday law starts God's vengeful hand, and then it progresses and it ends where Nebuchadnezzar leaves. You know, and that would be the close of probation, or if you want to get in the bigger picture, you know, later. But
Yeah, but there. I would. You can argue there's a period of time for the siege just right here. Siege has a period of time.
and that's a whole other thought. But there's a period of time between 66 and 70 where you can leave, where there isn't necessarily a siege.
Well, there's a siege and then it's withdrawn.
It's withdrawn, yeah. But there's a period, from the withdrawn point to 70, there's however many years, 3 years. It doesn't matter. But anyway, there's a period of time.
From here to here is 1,260 days.
Yeah. So, and I think the first siege lasts 6 months. Is that right, Theodore? The first Cestius is 6 months. We said.
No.
Or did
That
we?
was wrong. No.
Oh, that was wrong. That was wrong.
Yeah.
We had that. Yeah.
No, it happens at the Feast of Tabernacles in the
okay.
fall.
Here.
Isn't that right? It starts
Yeah.
in the fall?
Yeah.
But the point is, even if you guys haven't been able to find it, there has to be a period of time where the siege is,
It's
where
short.
he places the banners of Rome authority in the sacred precincts, and then he withdraws, and then they flee.
Yeah, it's a very short period of time.
My point, the fleeing isn't marking destruction, I think, if I understand the symbol correctly. The fleeing is, you have this period of space where there was something about to happen, but it got pulled away for a moment, and now you have time to run, which would be the midnight cry, I think, where Cestius is, like we're saying, planting the flag, but there's not destruction
No. Well,
in the sense of the city being destroyed from midnight cry to the Sunday law. That's the Sunday law where that siege picks up again with Titus. So you have that midnight cry Sunday law time period to run. Right? Am I understanding that symbol correctly?
Mhm.
It's the last chance.
Sister Tanya? Or no, Sister Michelle. No? Sister Tanya. Brother Theodore.
Okay, so I do have a paper on Ezekiel's chronology, which I've sent to most people here, I believe.
I have right here.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
has it
no,
right there.
That's not the paper. There's actually, it's a large paper with 7 pages, I believe, 6 pages.
Of text.
So, not of text, of diagrams and chronology. So we can add that to the video, of course, if people want to look at this chronology. But it goes through and explains the chronology very well. And getting the chronology correct is important. It doesn't have all of the because I don't have the chronology of the kings there, but I just have from the beginning of Ezekiel's first vision to his last vision, the chronology there. Plus I have that diagram that we just drew without all the waymarks, but just the diagram itself. So, that's going to be helpful for people if they can go over that and understand the chronology. But yeah.
Sister Tanya, you have something?
No, I was just going to point out the Cestius. We looked at it the last time, and I think it was about a month and a half. Sometime in November, he pulls away. We found a specific date that shows us when he came in and when he got out. Day by day, a chronological event with Cestius. So we do have that.
Yeah, we know.
From Josephus?
And other histories, yeah.
So you got, anyway, that's what we're saying, a brief period of time, short space.
What I was going to say is, I think when we distill, like Theodore just said, when you distill it down to the very basic, what we did in class the day when we were thinking, maybe this is the predictions, there's only 3 waymarks. There's the prophecy given, then there's 350 years, then Josiah is there, and then there's 40 years later where the siege is taking place. That was the very basic structure, those 3 waymarks. And I think that's important because I think those are, if you were to distill the predictions down in the sense of what Ezekiel's talking about, those are the most distilled waymarks.
Yeah, but I agree with Igor that this is a pretty profound marking of midnight.
Yeah.
And you can't just take this and repeat enlarge the 627 because you're claiming 627 is a midnight cry.
What you have to look at the symbols of what is being said. Josiah's prediction, the actual prediction made at 977 is that the temple is going to be, or not temple, the altar will be rent and the bones will be burnt, and it says, oh altar, there's some heavy symbolism that can place those things in the context of what's being said to the midnight cry, in the context of the prophecy.
But we overlap them, we put them over top of each other, right?
What?
We put the prophecy of Lich over the prophecy of snow. We have to put the prophecy of...
Yeah, no, I'm not, I'm agreeing with that. I'm saying if you look at the context of the prophecies though, I think they're pointing to those waymarks.
So actually, 592 is here.
What's 592?
It's midnight.
if you're trying to keep 977 as you're saying 911.
No, you want to go, this is 592 as well. Yeah, I
Yeah,
stand
that's what I'm
corrected.
saying. I want that to be the 5th day of the 4th month.
592.
I have thought about this before, but I don't know if it's possible for doing this. But based upon we understand the mirror
The mirror.
and the years I'm counting back, if we can still reform line back, like from 9/11 to the Sunday Road.
I don't know what you mean. Tell me again.
Like here's midnight and then midnight
Here,
cry.
here's midnight.
Yeah, and then midnight cry.
I don't know what you mean. See, everyone else does, but I'm
Saying
not.
that it's 9/11, midnight Christ, and then
No, I don't know. It's because the years are backwards, so I don't know if you can count backwards also. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you mean to find another symbol?
No.
No. A mirror. He's doing a mirror since the numbers are going backwards BC.
You'll
He's
find a
just wondering
reform line
whether we
backwards.
could
Oh.
line those up going backwards. Yes. It's possible, but you would have to think it.
he would say,
Okay.
592 will be there,
Yeah. I get it
and
now.
then midnight cry, and then I don't know what else.
Well, yeah, because it is a mirror already too.
This water is getting too deep for me. Sister Carol, you want to have a closing prayer?
Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that we can come together and study together. We need your help, though. We need you to open our minds to the truths that you want us to know, to understand what you have for us planned in the future. We thank you for what you are opening up to us. Thank you for the privilege of being here. Bless us through this day. May we be a blessing to others. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.